Well, welcome back. I'm Mike Festiva here. I got a new project. This is a pretty neat little quad. I bought it as a parts machine. Basically, I was going to part it out for another vehicle on my channel. It's a little Suzuki LT 250 4x4, and I didn't think much of it when I first got it. Kind of fix it up and bring it back from almost to dead. And I'll tell you why I'm having a change of heart on this machine. So stick around and enjoy the video, guys. Just picked up a Cherry Suzuki 250. I think it's a quad runner 4x4. I mean, this thing's immaculate. It's got 857 miles on it. Unbelievable condition. No, I'm just kidding. This thing's actually pretty haggard, but it's complete. And if you're wondering why there's a big balloon tire in the side shot, I actually got like a part of a carcass of a parts quad with it. Going to a little backstory, actually just the other day, I found a Polaris parts quad that looked just like a rolling chassis with a title. I went to go pick up. When I was there looking at it, it turned out to be a pretty complete Polaris. And this guy had this machine sitting there too. He said $700 and it ran about a year ago when he parked it. And I said, well, let's try to get started. It wouldn't crank over at the time when we hooked up a jumper box. So I said, I'll just give you $600 for it with the parts quad and we'll just take a gamble on it. I think we're gonna be able to get this thing fired by just basically cleaning up the carb right here and firing it up, and then we'll do an oil change and start resurrecting this machine. You gotta love that when you pop off the air filter cap and see that someone used a kid sock for an air filter. All right, let's see if we can get it fired up. So we put a used battery in here. It doesn't have much power, but I got a jumper box on here. The starter switch isn't working, so I located the starter solenoid here, and we're going to bridge this and see if we can get this thing fired up here. Ooh.
That could work.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
So, next step, let's hope it actually goes to the gear. Looks like reverse works as well. Pretty good. So as you can hear, it runs pretty well. Ordered some tune-up stuff for this thing. Previous owner decided to go for the children's sock modification for this thing, get a little more power out of the engine. So we're gonna go back to a traditional air filter instead. I just don't think these pink children's socks are really worth the extra power you gain. Got another oil filter, spark plug, some rear brake shoes. Got a new battery, nice sealed battery for this thing, and a seat cover. Seat cover's seen better days, probably like 10 years ago. It's gonna change the oil in here, freshen it up, and we got some new tires over here. I'll show you guys those next. We're gonna get those all freshened up on here. Should be a pretty good little 4x4 quad. I think we're gonna take this thing into some trails and see how well it does. So after digging around on the internet, I decided to get these from, I think, Rocky Mountain ATV. They're Sedona, I think Mud Rebels or something like that, but they seem to be for the tire you're getting and the size. This thing has some really odd sizes on it. Front tires being way smaller than the rear. It's about the most affordable route for an old quad. I didn't want to dump a ton of money into tires, but as you know, it's basically half of what I paid for this thing I paid on tires. Got these guys. We're gonna rush through actually mounting these because it's pretty boring. I don't even like mounting the tires. So I've never been a super big fan of Suzuki's. I've owned a few in the past, but this thing has some quirkiness to it. Oil fill right behind the tire here. Probably get to it with a long funnel without taking the tire off, but change the oil filter for sure. Take the tire off. And it's got a little sight glass. Kind of have to peek between the tire and the fender to see that. This thing was really full on oil. Probably some gas mixed in with it. Some of the quirkiness about the engineering on this thing makes up for it. Like that 3 range, super low, low, and high range. Reverse shifter up there, and locking front differential, which is pretty cool. So what was the reason why I didn't really think much of this quad when I first took a look at it? For one thing, look at it, it's hammered. All the plastic's been Frankenstein with zip ties all over it, but other than that, it goes way back. Like the fundamentals of the quad, even if it was in good shape, look at it. It's kind of awkward looking. I never really rode Suzuki's growing up. I had a few Suzuki motorcycles. I felt like the build quality is a little bit subpar. Growing up, I rode Hondas. Friends had a lot of Hondas and 4x4s. And like my 4Trax Honda, it just seems like the engineering is really nice. One thing a lot of these quads were doing, even the 4Trax has it subtly, but basically bigger rear tires and smaller front. Seems like something they're doing on early 90s and late 80s quads. But this thing had these giant balloon tires on back, these small ones up front, this awkward engine, open frame here. It just looked kind of clunky. The design work of it didn't look nearly as smooth and as refined as the Hondas. So initially I just didn't know much about it. Had all these shifters up here. It seemed interesting but strange. And actually, after trying it out a little bit around here, I'm starting to really like the design work of this. But there's a few things awkward, like the engine is long and low, really long in here. It's just like, if you could take like an engine on a motorcycle and then built in a whole nother gearbox behind that, that's basically how long it is. The engine goes from like here to here. It's ridiculously long, but they had some interesting features keeping the weight really low. But you look at it, there's like openness in the frame here, and there's this drive line running up front. There's like nothing up front here. Just looking at it appearance wise, I just thought this thing is just going to get butchered and turned into something else. But after riding it around, there are some key features that make this thing uniquely awesome off-road compared to my Honda. We'll go into that more in a future video. I want to compare the two because I overlooked this thing, almost didn't buy it, but it actually has some awesome capabilities. So I was hoping to get it stuck somewhere in the woods here. I'm just kind of high centered up on some old rotten logs. But the beauty of it is with these extra shifters, you got a high range, low range, and super low. 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, and front diff lock. So we'll put that in diff lock now. Should pull right out of here. So 3/4 of the way through that part back there, I ended up going for the 4 low and the front diff lock. Mainly, I made it over that log a few times, but getting the right camera shots and everything like that, it got rutted out and it ended up just getting kind of chewed up on the log and got high centered. So basically all that, I think I could have gone through there in just low range and just regular 4-wheel drive, which is open diff up front. But because we got hung up, it was a good opportunity to show with this extra feature. So it has high range, low, and super low. Once you're clicked into super low, that's when you can actually go from 4-wheel drive down to the front diff lock. Once you engage that, that's full 4-wheel drive, and this thing is almost unstoppable. It's a heck of a good machine off-road. All right, got it in super low range and front differential locks on. So like I mentioned earlier, this thing has diff lock and 4-wheel drive, but the really neat thing about this, you can actually click it into 2-wheel drive, so you can still drift it a little bit and have fun like a traditional 2-wheel drive quad. I hope you enjoyed the video. After driving this thing around and trying out the 4x4 capabilities, like I said, there's no way I'm gonna butcher this thing up for any other project just because it's too functional the way it is right now. Next video I plan to do with this will be more off-roading, and it's gonna be kind of like a buyer's guide for a beat up 30-year-old quad. And we're gonna go cover this and the Honda TRX that I have, and we're gonna talk about the pros and cons on each model. Kind of interesting to check out the difference in engineering because it's so much different between the Hondas and Suzukis. Like I said, this thing seems super crude when I got it, the engineering on it, but it has some really practical things that actually set it at some aspects maybe higher than the Honda in my chart now. I always thought those Hondas were cream of the crop, but you know, like after riding the two, they both have their unique characteristics and differences, and they both have really nice features. Keep an eye out for that video. And if you haven't seen me fixing up the old Honda TRX, I'll put a link over here to that video. I think I produced about 2 years ago. I got it from friends. They was sitting on the back part of their property, broken down, and I traded some cedar, about a half a day's worth of milling on the mill, maybe $200 worth of cedar for it. So check out that video, and if you're not subscribed yet, please consider the subscribe button. This is a little off topic than some of my videos, but it's kind of an interesting subject, and I like to keep the channel fresh. So hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, take care. Bye.
Give a thumbs up, guys.